All right, I'm going to go ahead and get today's meeting started. I want to thank you for joining us today for the virtual roundtable. Our guests today will be discussing the current retirement landscape and best practices for running your 401k plan. I'm Tracy Alfonsi. I'm the Director of Member Services here at the Construction Association of Michigan, and I'm pleased to introduce our two speakers today. Joining us from Mutual of America, please welcome Mike Salah, Group Account Representative, and Sarah Bibby, Participant Account Executive. Mutual of America is a full-service retirement plan provider, and we've invited them here today to talk about the benefits and best practices for your business's 401k. Although they are new members to CAM, Mike has been working with families and businesses for 15 years, and Sarah has been in the financial industry for almost 18 years, with the last 14 at Mutual of America. Before I turn it over to Mike and Sarah, just a few housekeeping items to mention. All participants are muted. If you have a question for our guests, please type it in the chat box and I'll be facilitating the Q&A. If we feel like it makes sense at the end, we can open up everybody's mics and have an open discussion if there are more questions that you guys want to put on the table. Again, thanks for joining us today, and I will now turn it over to Mike and Sarah.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Excuse me. We're very excited to be here today, and we appreciate you giving us some time today to talk a little bit about retirement and what we should be looking at regarding a 401k or a retirement plan through your company. So Mike, why don't you go ahead and start by telling us some of the different plans that are available for an employer to establish at a company or for their company?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Tracy. So to start off, there are a few different types of plans, the most common being defined contribution plans like 401k or 403b plans, safe harbor plans or profit sharing plans, or association plans like multiple employer plans and union multi-employer plans. Like an association plan could be like the CAM membership plan, where all the CAM members decide to all house their plans together and get some economies of scale that way. For smaller companies or startups, you may see IRA-based plans like payroll deduction IRAs, SCP plans, or simple IRA plans. And the third type is a defined benefit plan or pension. Currently, 401ks are the most predominant choice because the key advantage being for 401ks is they permit a high level of salary deferrals for both employee and employer contributions. As of now, this year, the participant deferral limit is $19,500 for those of us under 50, and 50 and older can do $26,000 is the maximum.
Fantastic. So are there benefits to the employer for setting up a retirement plan?
Yes, there are many. Some of them are the tax savings for the employer, tax credits, and payroll tax deductions for offering a retirement plan. And more importantly, that plan helps to create and retain a more highly qualified workforce and create a better team environment. Each company has its own unique set of circumstances and staff, and the plan that they provide should meet those unique needs and objectives. Sarah, I know you work more closely with the employees. What are the benefits for them that you're seeing?
So obviously the benefits, of course, are going to be the deferral of being able to put that $19,500 a year or whatever it is they can do in order to be able to save towards retirement. Of course, the tax deferral that could potentially come along with that could reduce them into a lower tax bracket. So that's going to be a benefit there as well. But of course, the more benefits that are available to staff, it makes the employees a little bit happier. It gives them something else to look forward to. Happier employees tend to work harder for the company. They usually tend to stay longer at a company as well when there's good benefits. And of course, that loyalty that comes along with being that company, not looking to just jump ship for 25 cents more an hour. Of course, you also get the dollar cost averaging, which is great for employees or for owners that are putting money into the plan. So you're not constantly having to try to time the market to buy at a lower price. You get this nice average by contributing to a regular contribution all over the place. Over the long term, you get that nice average. Plus, you're not worrying about having to send in a check or make a contribution at any time. There's obviously the potential match or anything that a company is able to give to to the employees. That's always going to be a huge benefit, because whenever there's any type of match or anything like that, of course, it encourages the employees to then put more money in to be able to get any type of match that they're able to get as well. Another thing, of course, the main thing is they're actually able to retire. they actually have enough money set aside for themselves where they can potentially retire and stop working. Of course, the benefit is the employee gets to retire, but then the benefit to the employer is that they're not staying on and working into older and more and older ages, which is always going to increase any kind of health costs that the employer is having to pay for as well. So those are some of the, good benefits that come along for the employees. So what are some of the enhancements that you're currently seeing these days, Mike, in some of the retirement plans?
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, one is a Roth provision. I'm sure everyone's heard of, the Roth savings or Roth IRA. Participants get they forego tax savings now for tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals in retirement. Many times individuals are not eligible to contribute to a Roth IRA outside of their company plan, so they like to take advantage of the work plan that has this feature. They might, their family, their household income might be above the limits, so they can contribute to a Roth savings through their work plan. Also, most families want to have options at retirement, and a Roth savings is a great way to do that. To have savings in different buckets, different categories of tax withdrawal rates is optimal for a tax efficient retirement or exit strategy. Another provision that we're hearing a lot about these days is automatic enrollment. Employers are asking about it. Most of our plans now come standard with automatic enrollment, and it's very beneficial for both the employer and the employee. Once eligible, automatic enrollment works this way. Once eligible, employees are automatically enrolled into the plan, into the qualified default investment, or target date fund is usually maybe something that is the qualified default investment. After a 30-day notice, they're automatically enrolled. It works more like some of your health insurance plans that I've been seeing also, where the employee must opt out if they don't want to contribute. And if they do nothing, they will be automatically enrolled. The Department of Labor really likes this provision. Their statistics show that there's a retirement crisis in our country, and they recommend automatic enrollment along with automatic escalation as some of the best ways to address this problem of retirement readiness. It ensures employees are offered the plan and they do not fall through the cracks, and helps you as an employer with your responsibility to ensure everyone who is eligible was offered the plan, and they cannot say that they didn't know about it, or it was never offered to them, or they missed that communication or email, which is usually the number one complaint for something like this with the Department of Labor, that they recognize as a complaint that a participant might have. And Sarah, I want to ask you now, what has been your experience with companies who have implemented automatic enrollment and auto escalation?
So we tend to see a lot of positive response. I know sometimes some employers are apprehensive to switch over to the automatic enrollment. We've seen nothing but positive responses for it. A lot of the participants that I work with are usually actually thankful that they're automatically enrolled into the plan. It really takes away from them having to make a decision or guess most of the time as to what they should do with their funds and where they should put it, about where to invest. That's usually the biggest question that a lot of employees have is, what do I do with my money? Where do I put it? This is all Greek to me. I hear these things on a pretty much a daily basis. So this takes away that big guessing game as to what to do, or that paralysis that some employees may look at it and say, okay, I want to get enrolled, but I don't know what to do with my money. This really takes away from them having to make that decision. So a lot of employees are thankful for that. The auto enroll is also nice because then they're putting this money away for themselves. And then when they go to leave the company, they actually have a chunk of money that's already set aside that maybe they might not have had before if they wouldn't have been automatically enrolled into the plan. And it's the same thing with the auto escalation. It's a great feature and a lot of employees like it because they are automatically increased on an annual basis, little by little. And this is something that I encourage employees to do on a regular basis anyways. But without the auto escalation, a lot of people will start with that, smaller amount per paycheck just to get themselves going. And then a couple years go by and they've never changed their dollar amount or their salary has increased. So the auto escalation has been very positive in that aspect as well. One other benefit, though, too, that we tend to see are enhancements on retirement plans is this payroll integration type of benefit or feature. Really what the payroll integration does is it helps to streamline the administrative process. So I encourage anybody that hasn't looked into the possibility of payroll integration or just hasn't set it up to maybe consider something along those lines, because the payroll integration really takes away that human error. It takes away from those fat fingerings of having to input information in and also having to do it in multiple places or doing those duplicate entries. So instead of having to input it into the retirement payroll provider system and then the payroll system all at the same time, they really just speak together. So it really does just streamline the administrative component along with this. It also has helped quite a bit because with COVID, a lot of us are working from home still, and who knows when that's actually going to change, or if, how that's going to adjust. So this allows for being able to do all of that stuff all together. So it's another great enhancement that we're seeing too. So Mike, what are the companies or the plan sponsors' actual responsibilities when providing a retirement plan?
Well, there are many, a lot more than we're going to go into today. Whether they're just starting out a plan or starting a plan, or you already have one, you want to ensure that the plan is in compliance, up to date on regulations and amendments. And employers should be talking to someone or a company that specializes in retirement plans. Like last year, for example, there were mandatory changes that affected most plans, like that had to do with withdrawals and loans, that they had to amend their plans. And if you don't have an expert, or if you're just left to do that yourself, that can be sometimes difficult to navigate that landscape.
So what would trigger an employer to meet or potentially be reviewing their plan with their current provider?
Employers should be reviewing the plan usually annually to be sure you're offering a plan that meets your company's needs and objectives. Many times we see plans, they were established, and over the years, the workforce and the situation has changed, and the plan has not really kept up as far as performance, cost, technology, education, and provisions that are more common these days. It's also a good idea to have it reviewed occasionally with an outside source or third party who can benchmark or compare your plan to similar 401ks of size and scope in companies within the same industry.
So one word I tend to hear quite often, and I'm sure those of you who are on have heard this word a lot, is the word fiduciary or fiduciary responsibilities. Are there ways that the employer or plan sponsor can actually try to limit that liability or get help with their fiduciary responsibilities?
Yes, any individual or entity with discretionary authority over the 401k plan administration or investments is considered a fiduciary. This is usually the employer, and that means they must be loyal to the participants and act solely for their benefit always, is in regards to the plan. But they can limit their liability by practicing prudent conduct, including properly documenting everything, all their processes that they use to pick out providers or the fund lineup. Just document everything and a regular process to do that. Giving participants the information they need to make informed investment decisions, or education as we call it. That's very important. Regularly reviewing plan performance, which I previously mentioned, and ensuring that the fees paid with plan assets are reasonable and are related to the operation of the plan, and avoiding conflicts of interest. Whoever you're choosing as your provider, why did you choose them? Just to make sure you're not paying more than you should be. A really great way also to help with these responsibilities is to hire competent service providers. There are providers who perform specific functions like record keeping. They're the custodian, the investment platform, third-party administration. Some providers offer all of these as a bundled service, like Mutual of America is a bundled full-service retirement plan provider. And also find out whether your provider will offer to indemnify you. Some firms will indemnify with respect to the investment funds you are offering against liability, losses, or reasonable related expenses. Some providers also offer services that are designed to assist with investment fiduciary responsibilities for the company for a fee, for the plan sponsor, for a fee, specifically 321 or 338 fiduciary is what those are called. So Sarah, as a participant rep, representative, what can a company do to be sure each individual is getting the most out of its retirement plan?
So, like Mike had mentioned earlier, education is a very important factor when it comes to making sure that all the employees are getting as much as they possibly can, including the owners, out of the retirement plan. So, of course, making sure that all of the employees, when they get hired in, they're aware of the plan, they're offered the plan, or know when they're eligible to be able to start contributing to the plan, obviously, is a huge benefit. Utilizing automatic enrollment, of course, for that feature as well is a great way to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. Automatic enrollment also helps a lot in this aspect, in the fact that a lot of smaller companies could potentially have what we call testing issues. And if you have this automatic enrollment feature on there, or you're offering it to all the employees and they're taking advantage of the benefit, then it reduces the possibility of any kind of refunds or anything like that that comes with testing with a 401k. And like I had said, providing ongoing education, that's probably one of the biggest things to make sure that everybody is getting the best benefit that's available for the retirement plan.
Sarah, is the employer required to provide education? I know I talked about they have to be informed, but the education you're talking about is a little above that. And are they? What are the requirements, and what are some of the ways that you're providing this education to the employees?
So education to an extent is required. The DOL does require that there is something that is given to the staff. The most basic form would be providing them a website to be able to go to be able to research, view any of the fund options or plan provisions that are available to them. So that would be more of the basic type of education. There's obviously a lot of different formats that can be utilized. And some of the ways that we've been doing it, obviously, again, with the current situation we're in with COVID, these web-based type of webinars or face-to-face one-on-one meetings is obviously the more prevalent option these days. So in my experience, what we've been doing is a lot of these type of situations where they're either specific educational webinars. So for example, I personally do one a month with a different topic every month. It's really important to be doing those different topics to keep people engaged and involved in their retirement plan, so it doesn't just kind of fall flat, because that can happen quite often. So it might not be providing everything that it really needs to be providing to the staff if they get enrolled and then just kind of let it go by the wayside. So the virtual group meetings are a great way to do that. Another thing that personally we've been utilizing and I've been utilizing is these face-to-face one-on-one meetings. It's always a good idea to be utilizing the plan properly and to the full benefits, is to make sure that the employees are looking at it as a household picture. So no matter what provider you're with, whether you're in an employer-sponsored plan or individual accounts with an advisor, it's always a good idea to make sure things are being looked at a household approach to make sure everything balances out. And a lot of those we're personally doing through the webinars as opposed to face-to-face as well. And again, it just allows the employees to continue to be involved and engaged in the plan and understand that it's never too late. Sometimes they feel like it's too late for them to get going, and letting them realize that makes it a little bit better.
How often are you providing these? I know it's different for different companies, but how often do you recommend providing education to the employees?
I recommend probably at least an annual type of basis. Usually, as you can see, there's probably a common theme here, is that this 1 year plan review, 1 year, employees review their accounts 1 year. And again, like I said, whether it's your employer plan or you work with an advisor, it's always a good idea, at least annually, to be doing this. Trying to provide some sort of ongoing education on an annual basis is very important. With a lot of the employers I work for, it really just depends on everybody's work situation is going to be different depending on how your company works and timing and all that. It may not be feasible to have them quarterly or monthly however often is really feasible to the company is how often they should be doing it. But personally, they should be looking at it on an annual basis. And that would definitely satisfy any kind of DOL recommendations or anything along those lines as well. Again, it just really depends on the individual situations.
You usually meet with a lot of individuals more often than once a year, though, don't you? I mean,
I do, yes. So I have a lot of clients that we check in every 3 to 6 months. It just kind of depends on what, their preference is. So again, it kind of ranges on the individual situation, but some like to at least have that annual, just that check-in, just to get that reassurance, making sure that they don't need to make any changes. Or, obviously we get the drops in the market like the first quarter of last year. You get the additional phone calls at that point with some panic in their voice. So it's kind of relative, but annual is a pretty good basic way to go.
That's when you tell them to increase their contributions.
That's right. That is absolutely right. That's when we were telling them it's time to put some more money into that plan and take advantage of those low prices. So, and it's little tidbits like that they might not, really think about or understand. So that's why it's always good for them to have somebody to talk to be able to talk those things through and have those conversations. All right. So with this, what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to see if anybody has any questions. Also at this time, I'm going to put our contact information up here for you in case anybody does have any individual questions or wants to have a conversation with either myself or Mike. And then we would be able to, you can call us. Those are our cell phone numbers and our email addresses. We could always, like I said, we can have any additional questions or anything along those lines. Is there anybody right now that we can always, like Tracy had said, we can unmute you and have a conversation, or you can put it in the chat bar, whatever your preference, if anybody has one at this time.
Guys, I have opened it up so that participants can unmute themselves if they'd like, if they have a general question they want to ask, or again, follow up in the chat box, and I can facilitate the question, or after our call, welcome to follow up with Sarah and Mike directly. We've also recorded this too, so I'll be sending it out to everybody who registered to attend today, and you can watch it at your leisure if there was some information in there that you didn't get a chance to really tune in on or write down really quickly. So you can listen to Sarah and Mike on repeat as often as you need to.
Lovely.
Well, I want to thank you guys for participating today, and we'll send this out to everybody and make sure that they can follow up with you if they need any additional information, but we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
And thank you to our participants today. Hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you too.
Thanks.